Hello and welcome. We are Bleeding Tree Gaming. My name is Amy, aka Warpfiend, and I am joined by.
Hello, my name is Tammy, and I am also known as Autumn Witch, and we're back from middle-aged body pain.
Yes. Unfortunately, we've been off from videos for a little while because we're both suffering various health problems, but we're looking forward to getting back on track. And with it, we are going to start off with the next of our Faction Spotlight series, as you will know if you saw the title of this, Adeptus Mechanicus.
Okay, so this is an army I'm not overly familiar with, but they do have a wonderful steampunk/diesel punk vibe to them. So I'm looking forward to going through this range and having a look.
Yeah, I did a bunch of Adeptus Mechanicus commissions. I painted basically my friend's whole army over a couple of years or so. So I'm quite familiar with most of the models, or at least the first wave of models. And there've been a lot of new ones since then. So
Yeah.
before we get into the model range, let's give you the quick lore rundown. The tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus are the guardians of humanity's remaining technological knowledge. From their forge worlds, they manufacture the vehicles and munitions needed to keep the vast armies of the Imperium functioning. The holiest of their forge worlds is Mars, whose barren red irradiated deserts conceal vast subterranean manufactorums. Their god is the motive force, the essence that powers all mechanical devices. The Mechanicus treats mechanisms as objects of worship, ancient instructions for simple mechanical engineering having become holy doctrine. They see the Emperor of mankind as the Omnissiah, the living incarnation of the motive force. When humanity first explored the stars way back in the dark age of technology, it was necessary for colonists newly arrived on a planet to have access to all sorts of devices and vehicles. The STC, or Standard Template Construct, was a vital tool that contained a complete database of all mankind's technology, from the tiniest device to the largest void ship. With it, colonists had the blueprints for everything they needed to create a new civilization. In the 41st millennium, only fragments of STCs remain, and an even semi-intact STC is an extremely valuable prize for the Adeptus Mechanicus. With so much of the scientific knowledge of humanity being lost to the ages, finding STCs is a much more reliable way of expanding technological knowledge than experimentation or invention, both looked on unfavourably by the creed of the cult Mechanicus.
They sound like the sort of people you find on model railway forums. You can't run that coach with that coach and that locomotive.
Yes, that is very much the creed. So they're post-human, toaster-loving robot boys. They have wacky archaeotech, referencing a mix of real-world historical machinery. The most technologically advanced human faction for a relative quality of advanced and human. You have legions of Skitari, their tech priests overlord, brainwiped servitors, and programmed automaton.
Sounds like the world. It sounds like what the world will be like when Elon Musk takes over.
Yes. I mean, he has in the past referred to himself as Imperator of Mars before. It's all very, very sad.
I hope he awakens the Ice Warriors from under the planet's crust, and they just not even harm him. They just point at him and just mock him in every conceivable way.
I was thinking more the Void Dragon, but yeah, Ice Warriors, whichever, I don't care. So long as he awakens an ancient evil that devours him, that's good for me.
I mean, crossing our fandoms there, but yeah.
Right then, well, that's a bit about the faction. Let's move on to the meat of the thing, the rage review. Let's have a look at the models. And I'm going to cut this bit out. Okay, so here we have the range, and you can see there's a modest 35 items here, so it's definitely one of the more self-contained armies. You can see there's a nice range of stuff there, and it's all very new kits.
Yeah, I mean, it's the army itself is relatively new. When I say relatively new, that's to you and I, because we first got into this hobby about 30 years ago. So yeah, these kind of popped up during my last break from the hobby. So I came back to it, it's like, oh, what are these? These like cyberpunk, steampunk, crazy people that look like they'd finally gotten around to pulling out all of the darkest corners of John Blanche's brain.
So I think the first wave of them was like 2013, 2014 or so.
Yeah.
So it was
just before I got back into it after my last hiatus. So
yeah, I think they were one of the first armies created after GW kind of really nailed down their current miniatures process and standard. So yeah, there is nothing that was in the older, slightly clunkier era of models here. It's all the new stuff, and it's all like some really good kits. Now they might be fiddly kits.
Yes, most definitely. But the level of detail across the whole range is fantastic.
Yes. So let's start by having a look at the range of characters they've got. So this is the newest one that came out soon, and this is very much something out of a John Blanche painting.
Yeah.
He's got the big stilt legs. You can tell a lot of the Skitarii have robot legs because the irradiated deserts of Mars tend to eat away the legs of normal humans. So he's obviously gone for a bit extra protection because he's like, I'll just get a bit higher away from the radioactive dust.
He's definitely a long boy.
Yes. And you can see he's got the like the big, I think they're called, that's transuranic arquebus or the radium gisale, all very much styled off like kind of what you'd think of as early modern weaponry.
Yeah, it's definitely like the Brown Bess type influence in the rifle, along with the other components. And I do like a musket. I very much. I'm a big fan of that time period, aesthetically, not politically.
Yes,
but yeah, it's like if they'd gone back and said to someone in like the like early Victorian era, draw what humanity on Mars will look like in 38 millennia, and it would have probably been something like this.
Oh yes. That's one of the coolest things about the army. So this is the newest character. Your standard character, or the basic general, is the Tech Priest Dominus, and this is obviously very heavily John Blanche inspired again.
Oh, definitely. And it also looks like it's got a bad back as well. So I fully relate to this Tech Priest Dominus.
Yeah, I think this was like the earliest character model that was out for them, and he's got a few variants. You can mix him up. He's got the one with the like flat hat thing, which is also from like classic Warhammer art.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the basis of a lot of armies, but they've added in a lot of other options. So you have the Engine Seer, which is the most basic of them.
I really want one. I'm thinking of either getting this one or the Forge World one for my Imperial Guard army, because these aren't just exclusive to Ad Mech. You can take them in other, definitely in Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum armies as well. And they stand out, but they fit in, if you get what I mean. There are certain design cues where it will look like consistent with the army, although it stands out. And I think that's a very good balance to get inner design.
Yeah, they've got the chunkiness of a space marine. They've got a vaguely humanoid torso, like even if it is heavily replaced with robotics.
Yeah.
So they don't look too out there. So they can kind of like easily fit in with other forces, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's also like a Forge World variant of this as well, which
which is strangely cheaper than this one, which is an absolute bizarre concept.
Yes.
That the Forge World version of something is cheaper than the main range version.
Yes. So the other variant of the Tech Priest you have is the Manipulus, and this is a newer one. Now this one specializes in it's basically like a living battery, and it uses that energy to then power up your vehicles and weaponry and stuff like that.
Nice.
And yeah, this is a very cool model. There's a lot going on this, so this is very typical of Mechanicus. There's so much going on, it's hard to see like quite all the details. I've always thought as the guy who's picking his nose.
Yeah, I mean he does look like a clean Nurgle-y person.
Yes.
So I think for Dark Mechanicus, which is also a thing, for Dark Mechanicus, I think he'd be a great character for that.
Yeah, definitely. So, other than that, there's the Skitarii Marshal, which obviously is like specialized in buffing your Skitarii troops.
Yeah,
and that's a great kind of like. I really like this as a continuation of the Skitarii thing. It's not the fanciest one of the Mechanicus's characters, in that it looks like your Skitarii, only more so.
Yeah, you gotta love a dude in a trench coat.
Oh yeah.
That's where it's at. Dudes in trench coats. Capes are good, but trench coats. Except Nazis, obviously. They kind of ruined the trench coat for everyone.
So,
shower bastards.
Yeah, there's also the techno-archaeologist, and I believe this is a newer one. I don't actually know much about this model. It seems to be following a lot of the Skitarii design cues, as well as tying that into the Tech Priests, I guess. I don't think this is my favorite of the characters, but it seems like it'd look good kind of, with other characters.
Yeah.
It's not the most striking of them, I'll say.
No, but it's still very nicely proportioned and posed for its role. I think it's good. It's okay. It doesn't scream, look at me, I'm fantastic, but it's a serviceable design.
It's a serviceable one, yeah.
Yeah.
Now the one named character you have is Belisarius Cawl, who's been one of the prime drivers in kind of the whole Primaris Space Marines thing. He's been very heavily featured in the lore and that. And I think this is just an absolutely superb model, and it just screams John Blanche. You've just got so many little bits and pieces and doodahs and thingamybobs. It's just incredible, and the whole kind of like you can vaguely recognize parts of him that are still human.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell with the cloak exactly what's going on there, and it just looks like millions and millions of like tendrils and different limbs and stuff.
He's a proper scuttlebutt.
Yes, very much so. And yeah, obviously that's your big model. It's not a huge model, but it's
big on character.
Yeah, it's like a cavalry base size model, I'd say.
Yeah.
Good luck painting him. That's all I want to say. Just spray the whole thing in metal, give it a wash, and maybe pick out some red details. It's probably going to be your best bet.
Yeah. And just go over the edging with some Gilman Flesh contrast to give it that gold tint, and that's it. Simple, easy.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Right, so that's all the characters. Now, when it comes to troops, Skitarii are your like backbone of your force. They are basically the militia run by the tech priests. And you have two basic types, both come in the same kit. You have the Rangers, which wear the hoods, and you have the Vanguard, which have the helmet. And they both fulfill similar roles. Obviously, on the battlefield, you have there's not a choice here between like assault and like assault close combat and range.
Yeah.
They are both very much ranged, but I think these ones are more short range and heavy hitting, whereas
they're more
the Rangers
long range,
are more long range, yes. And
I
love the Rangers again have the arquebuses here, the like really fancy archaeotech weapons, and they're just a great basic troop. I think like they could be like just getting this kit. You could do so many cool conversions with this stuff. Like I love the like hoods and the masks. It's such an iconic look. I like the helmets, but to me, like the hoods and masks, that's classic Ad Mech look for me.
Preferring a hood to a helmet, yeah.
Yes. They've got metal heads. They don't need helmets.
Yeah.
So you have then a few variants on Skitarii. So you have the cavalry, basically. They're on like robotic horse dog crosses. And again, you have the Cerberus Raiders, which are the Rangers, and then the Vanguard ones are the Sulphur Hound. So then there's also the Sicarians, which are a more kind of, these are your more assault-focused ones, and you have infiltrators and rust stalkers there. See, those ones have the like they're electro-goad things.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they call them.
Zappy sticks.
Stun carbine or taser goad. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. And then you have the other ones, the rust stalkers that have the sonic blades, which I think are super cool.
They look awesome.
What do they call them? Cord claws, transonic razors. Yeah. I love these ones, especially like the leader with all the like heavy tubes coming down. Again, it's the same aesthetic on the whole army. Like there's, but there's so many variations on kind of crazy cyberpunk / steampunk soldier that you can get.
Yeah.
And there's also the Electro Priests. You get the Corpuscari and the Fulgurite. Now, these ones were in the lore from, I think, back in the second edition book. It actually mentions the Electro Priests in it.
Yeah, a lot of these units were like very much present in the lore beforehand, before they actually got their own faction. So I was like I was saying, that although I wasn't in the hobby at the time that the models came out, it all looked very, very familiar to stuff I knew from beforehand.
Yep, and then you also have the Taraxi, which are roughly kind of Skitarii based again.
Yeah,
but
the flappy lads.
Yes. Like influences from I think these wings are kind of like and then obviously they have like the bird claws on these ones, which I think is very good. And that other variant, I don't know the difference between these two variants, but yeah, they're the very cool models.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all your basic Skitarii based troops. Now you also have things like the servitors, which if you don't know, Warhammer 40k lore, a servitor is basically like they'll take a prisoner or they'll clone a human and use them as use their basically all higher functions, cut off their brain and implant it in a machine and use that in place of AI to run something, because AI is obviously abominable intelligence and should be abhorred.
Yes.
In real life as well as in 40k. Yeah, and they like stick these onto like battle tanks, and these models, like, even if you don't collect Ad Mech, I would recommend getting these bases, because you can take the top off there and you can make a guy with a tank for a body.
Yeah, you could do some interesting grot tank mashups.
Yeah, I've seen them used for grot tanks as well. They're a perfect size for those. So yep, you have those, and also these, which are a kind of elite choice, the Castellan robots.
Yeah.
And they come with their own like engine seer. I believe it's the Cybernetica Data Smith, yes. And again, these, because AI is banned, basically he has a series of like computer disks that he'll put in that have different kind of programming battle algorithms in them, which I think is an interesting way of doing it.
It is.
And these models are really beautiful as well. They're really fun to paint. These I've done a couple of sets of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's those are the more heavy elite kind of troop style things.
Yeah.
Moving up, it's the vehicles.
Yay, I like a vehicle.
And we're going to start off with the Archaeopter, because this is obviously based on the like ornithopters, and also very Da Vinci like. So you've got the Dune influence as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some variations on this one. The Transvector one, and I believe, what's the other one called?
I mean, they're all build options from the same kit, aren't they?
Yes, it's all the same kit. So you have those three options there, and they're all really cool. I really like the cockpit design on this one. They are a bit pricey at 70 quid.
They are, but that's about normal for a flyer, because most flyers tend to be either like sort of, I mean, I'm going by Space Marines, but either like Storm Talon size or Storm Raven gunship size, and these look to be about Storm Raven gunship sized, and they are
fairly big. That is about the size of a Hell Brute, to be honest. Not Hell Brute, a Hell Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, one of the more expensive kits in the range, to be honest. I don't know that there's much taller, bigger, higher.
Certainly not this side of Forge World.
My brain's still not working right. You've got to. We've had a break. You've got to cut us some slack here. So you also have the Iron Strider, which is like their Sentinel thing.
Yeah.
And this, I want to show you a close-up of it, because it's really quite cool. You not only have the rider there, there's actually a servitor human that's kind of like wired into the machine there, that runs the systems of it, basically, which I think is a really gruesome touch.
It's suitably 40k.
Yes. Moving on from those, you have the Onaga Dune Crawler, which is this is the first vehicle they had, and I think this is just like a crazy design. Obviously, kind of similar to the design of the Defiler for the Chaos Space Marines. I think that was the first thing that was kind of like a crab walker thing with a box on top. But yeah, this one, obviously they had much better technology available to them, and it's just like absolutely perfect, beautiful kit. Quite a pain to paint, but
I can imagine that. I can imagine that the best way to paint a lot of Ad Mech is to do sub-assemblies.
Yes, you definitely don't want to glue the top tank to the bottom of it until you've painted them both. And I believe the last transport is the Scorpius, and now I think this is really cool as a variant on a tank that obviously needed a transport of some kind.
Yeah.
And this kind of hovercraft, like landing vessel.
Yeah, it's like half hovercraft, half Space Marine Rhino going backwards.
Yes, very much so. I just love the style they've gone for those, and I think there's some various variants. I think you can build one where back's completely enclosed there.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a running theme throughout the range of multiple build options for each kit.
Yeah.
Which, if you're good with magnets, could
oh yeah,
could serve you quite well for variety.
Oh, definitely. And you're going to get loads of crazy bits with this army for upgrading. So
yeah,
go crazy with your conversions.
And
Why not?
Also, this is another army where it's probably a good idea to grab the data cards, because this is one of the armies that's only going to get like one codex per edition.
Yep, the codex has just come out. You've got almost 3 years, maybe more, until you next have to update your rules and that. So I think you're fairly safe.
Yeah. And that's I mean, we looked at the combat patrol when we did our combat patrols.
I thought I'd just
podcast.
end it on this image here.
And I think we agreed it was a reasonably good one for what you get.
Yeah, it's a reasonably good one. Obviously, no one big thing, but you get a nice variety of stuff in there. The original Start Collecting that had the Dune Crawler in it was quite good, and it's a shame they don't do that one anymore.
Yeah.
If you can pick that up from a local gaming store anywhere, I definitely recommend getting that old one. But yeah, so that's Ad Mech, everyone. I think it's one of the better ranges overall.
Yeah.
In terms of a ratio of hits to misses.
Yeah, and also the fact it looks like there's only about however few units there are, but since you've got a lot of variety in those kits to do a lot with, which
which
every I like.
Kit has a couple of builds.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to build like a bigger army, you've got a bit more scope for it. I mean, if it's only a small army like Monopo stuff and that's fine. But if you want to go like over 1,000 points, 1,500, 2,000, whatever.
And of course, Ad Mech
can
use all the bigger Imperial war machines like your Knights and that as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you can even get a Titan in there.
Yeah, we didn't really go over the Forge World stuff. There's the Terex pattern drill.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it is basically all the same stuff you can take as any other Imperial faction. So they have access to a lot of that.
Yeah. The drill thing is pretty much the reverse drop pod.
Yes. Well, that's been Ad Mech then. Definitely rating them on the higher scale so far.
Yep. And on the next one we're doing, I'm hoping for good things, because it's going to be looking at the brand spanking new Dark Angels.
Oh, interesting.
Which should be going up for pre-order soon, so we can have a proper look at the new range, which I'm quite looking forward to. Even though I promised myself I'm not buying any more Dark Angels. I've got 3,000 points of Deathwing Terminators. I don't need any more.
Yes. No, I know it's been tempting a lot of people with those Dark Angels out there, so keep an eye out for that one.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much for watching. Fingers crossed we're going to be getting back to regular hobby content again. Obviously, health problems allowing. Thanks very much for watching, though. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We love you.
And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.